already gave you one assignment. We only have remaining two seat work. And also, two quizzes. Kasi di pa talaga tayo nag-quiz. So, to save time, let me just start right away with our topic. If you are okay na with your attendance. Okay, so let me just share my screen to you guys. Kasi week 15 pa ito. So this is about global demography. Can you see my screen? Nag-appear na ba sa inyo? Baka late na naman. Thank you. By the way, I should give the grades, no? Pero, unahin mo natin itong lessons. So, for the global demography, we are going to talk about demography itself, but in a global scale, and how these issues in the global demography arises and affects the society as a whole. So we are going to tackle this topic na being guided by the following learning objectives. But of course, not all of the outcomes will be met because of the limited time, and this topic or the topic on the last outcome will be discussed in the next one. So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to first discuss the relationship, sorry for the typographical errors. So discuss the relationship between the population and economic welfare, of how governments and states and nations should address population growth, especially its relationship with economic welfare. Secondly, identify the effects of aging and overpopulation. The aging that I am pertaining here is not, how we age, how age affects the human body, but aging in a sense that statistically, the number of aged people are rising, or there is increase in the number of aged people. So that's the aging na konsepto na nandito. And lastly is to differentiate between contrasting positions over reproductive health. But this one again is that's the next topic na to siya, which is women and reproductive health. So as we go on with our topic with global demography, it's very important to have a concept, the understood concept, what demography is. So basically, the origin of the word demography is from the Greek terms. So demography, the demos here, and the demo here, first four letters is pertaining to demos, which means people. Again, pag sinabing demos, it means people, and graphies or graphies, it means to study, or the description of, the discussion of, the presentation of the data of, that's the graphies or the graphy here in demography. So demos, it means people, and then graphies, which means description of, the discussion of, the giving of data of, So it's basically the study of human population. When we give descriptions and statistical data and descriptive data to human population. Okay? So, before we go on to the problem of overpopulation, which is the main problem in demography, we are going to tackle first the three main contributors of demography. So these are the contributors to the size of population. These are the things or the aspects in demography that contributes to the size of the population. Okay, so the first one is fertility. So these concepts are kinda familiar to you guys because of course you are in the medical field and you are meant to understand these concepts. Firstly is the fertility. It's where the study of population born. Now it begins with how many people. Yes, this is where the human population study gets started because it should start with how many people are born. Now you can study the gender, you can study the population rate, the mortality rate, the migration rate, if you have that study, the fertility rate, and of course the birth rate. So in a sociological concept, fertility and birth are of course two different things. No, so birth rate is of course being able to labor or to give birth to a human being. But fertility, on the other hand, is being able to conceive or being able to bear a child. So fertility is the incidence of childbearing in a country's population. Okay? So again, it's where the study of population begins. You know, it's in looking at how many people are being conceived or being born. So it could be fertility or it could be birth rate. But for now, no, we can consider fertility no, as a main contributor to the size of population. So, speaking of fertility, no, where is it, and childbearing, and of course, um, giving birth itself, why is it in the rural areas there are only a few members in the society, no? Konti lang or maliit lang yung size ng population sa rural areas compared to the urban areas. Pero when you look at in the household of the people in the rural areas, they have large size of family members. No, malaki yung household nila. Mas marami silang number of children compared to the households or families in the urban areas. Again, in the rural areas, konti lang yung population nila as a whole, but their household size is big. But when you go in the urban areas, no, the household size is small. Konti lang yung number of children. Pero as a whole, people are great in numbers. Ibig sabihin, mas malaki yung population nila as a whole, pero sa household is kakaunti sila. So what might be the explanation of this? So I will not anymore ask you guys since we're saving time. So the reason for this is because in the rural areas, the space is kind of bigger. Okay, the space is kind of bigger, and even if the family size is bigger, they don't rapidly populate that much. Okay, those hindi ganun kabilis, no? Mabagal siya even if mas marami sila mag-produce. However, sa urban areas, kukaunti lang yung members ng family nila sa household, pero mas malaki yung population as a whole because people from the rural areas are actually going to the urban areas, and that will lead us to the second contributor of population size, which is migration. Kahit nakakaunti lang yung members talaga ng urban areas, no, kakaunti lang talaga yung family members in the urban areas during the day, tumataas yung number ng mga tao sa lugar ng urban areas because of migration. Okay? So in Jensen, we are much populated during the day rather at night, or we are much populated during the weekdays compared to the weekends. Why? Because of migration. The people from the rural areas, though marami sana sila, but because their people seek for opportunities, they seek for a better life, they seek for more sabi ko nga, more opportunities and privileges kasi yung iba, mas nakikita na yung opportunity dito mag-aral or dito mag-work kaysa sa rural areas. No? Some of you are from rural areas, no? Not necessarily sa mga provinces, but sa mga suburban areas, pwede sa mga suburban areas, you are migrating, no? Internal migration. You are migrating from your place to the city, not to seek for opportunities. That is why in the rural areas or in the suburban areas where you came from, lumiliit yung population doon. Kahit na marami talaga kayo ng mga citizens doon, lumiliit ang population doon kasi pupunta kayo sa urban areas. And with that, kahit na konti lang sana ang population or members ng society ng urban areas, mataas ang population during the day and during the weekdays because of migration. People from the rural areas come here to study, to work, no, and to do some errands, to do some transactions. So that is the second contributor, the population size, migration. So we have already discussed this one in the midterm period. Now it refers to the movement of people into and out of a specified territory. So yun. So, we have also discussed that we have what we call as migration, emigration, and the immigration. And these are influenced by the pull and push factors. Okay? So, when you say push factors, these are these are the reasons, no? Influenced by the family, by the place of origin, kung bakit mo kailangang umalis. The reason for leaving influenced by the place of origin. But pag sinabi naman pull factors, these are the reasons, no, for leaving as an attraction given by the place of destination. So, ang rason naman kung bakit ka umaalis ay may magandang opportunities abroad or may magandang opportunities sa city. So, that is the pull factor. So, I will not go more on that because we have already discussed on that. And the last or the other one that has determined the population size is what we call as the mortality. Okay, so marami pang ibang determiner of size of the population or the contributor to the size of population such as the crime rate, no? But all of this can be categorized into these three: fertility, migration, and mortality. So mortality naman, of course, is the incidences of death in a country's population, no matter the circumstance is. Okay, so those are the three contributors to what we call as population. So let me just define to you what population is now before we go on to the issue in population, which is overpopulation, and how the experts and the researchers or the scholars of population has recommended some solutions on how we deal with such issue. So population is the number, no? It's the number of all inhabitants of a particular town, area, or a country. So when you count the population, it is usually counted by grouping or categorizing the species or the groups, the social status, the whatever category that you want to count. Okay, for example, what is the population of women in the general Santos City? Okay, so when you say population, it should be specific. It should be categorized because you cannot count all people by just counting them one by one. You need to categorize them in order to get size statistics, right? So sa atin, sa population, you cannot just give the population as a whole sa General Santos City. That is why when we are asked if what is the population in Gensan for 2020, no, it's approximately lang. Bakit? Because we need to categorize pa who are those people that you are pertaining to, or who are those people that should be counted in the population? Are they the migrants? Are they the residences? No, residents din ba yung mga naga-boarding house? Or residents din ba yung mga nandito para hindi sila registered? So you need to be specific with your population. Again, it is being counted by grouping or categorizing. Okay? So, alright. So, in this part, no, last semester, since we're still having our face-to-face classes, we had this simulation in a class. So, I divided the class into two, but they are not into equal numbers. So, we have one group, and then in that group, they are populated. No, malaking number. Halos 80% ng klase ay nabilong doon na group. That's the group 1. And we have the group 2. Sa group 2 naman, of course, is 20% no, of the class or less. Kasi syempre may mga absent yan. So, the rest of the class no, is nasa group 2. So, sobrang konti lang nila sa grupo na yon. Now, ang ginawa ko is I have given them almost the same size of space. No, very similar size of space. And I have guarded some borders na nagkaroon sila ng mga borders kung saan lang talaga yung space na para sa kanila. So, of course, no, yung sa group 1, sisikipan sila kasi sobrang dami nila tapos yung space nila is same lang doon sa group 2 na sobrang konti nila. So, ang ginawa ko is nagpag-game ako sa kanila. No, nagkaroon kami ng Paint Me a Picture game. So, nagkaroon na kami ng tatlong events, no? Tatlong picture simulation game na yon. Pero kahit na hindi pa kami nakabot sa third event or third picture, nagrereklamo na yung group 1. So, ang reklamo ng mga group 1 ay sobrang sikip daw sa space nila. Hindi daw sila makagalaw ng maayos. At dahil na sobrang dami nila, kapag nagpapapaint ako ng picture, konti lang yung members na nagpa-participate. The others are just looking at, the others are just sitting down. Ang iba kasi nag-murmur, sige na sila nagreklamo, ang iba sige katawa, no? So, konti lang yung, o hindi lahat, is nagpa-participate or nagko-contribute doon sa picture. Kasi nga, sobra-sobra sila doon. However, the group 2 also did the same thing. Nagreklamo din sila sa akin. Kasi daw, sobrang konti daw nila na may gusto pa sila gawin sa picture nila pero hindi nila magawa kasi kulang sila ng tao. Okay? So, that is the scenario in the realities. No? So, yung mga reklamo nila, no, so, syempre, nagreklamo sa reklamo. Nung natapos na namin yung paint me a picture na simulation game, pinaupo ko na sila. Tapos sabi na, yun na yun, ganyan. Tapos, afterwards, I have asked them some questions. What have you observed or anong na-feel nyo when you did the game, the simulation game? And nagsabi lang sa group na, yung iba daw, hindi na daw sila natuwa. Kasi, hindi sila nakaparticipate, no? Yung iba naman is hindi sila natawa kasi yung iba nagatayo lang daw na walang ginagawa, at konti lang daw sila doon, tapos sobrang sikip, hindi nila magawa yung gusto nila. And I said na, exactly, no? That's exactly the expected outcome of the group, no? Or the expected result if there is a big population, a growing population within a specific area, a specific demographic or geographic area that is of course not increasing. That is the reality of the earth, no? If you continually increase in number, our earth or our planet is not increasing in size. Our agricultural lands or urbanized lands, no, or rural lands man yan, the lands itself, no, it's not expanding, but the population of the people is continually increasing. That's the problem of overpopulation. This is the problem of most urbanized areas in the societies, in the whole world, no, not just here in our country, but of course in other countries as well. Now, because the people is when we go in the global cities, in the global city, people coming from different countries are going there. Hindi lang yung galing sa rural nila ang pumupunta sa global city, but of course, those people, those merchants coming from other countries as well. So, mayroon talaga mga places in the world na nagsisikipan yung mga tao. Okay, overcrowded yung mga tao. So, when you go to the mall, no, especially kapag may sale, or especially kapag malapit ng December, nung wala pang COVID, na nagsisiksikan ng mga tao, no, ang taas ng pila sa counter, or ang taas ng pila sa mga babayarin, okay? Sa mga Palawan pawn shop, okay? Sa mga Cebuana Luwilier. Sobrang taas ng pila. Because people are crowded, no? So that's what happen if more people live in the same amount of space and they are increasing in numbers. However, in the group ko, yun ang reklamo nila, no? Konti lang daw sila. So, yung ibang members ng grupo nila is may dalawang role at the same time. So that also what happens if less people would live in the same amount of space. Yun ang kadalasang sitwasyon ng mga rural communities. Okay? So they lack manpower. Okay? They lack manpower in there because most of their younger generations would like to embark into new opportunities in the urbanized area rather than in their communities. Okay? So, kulang na kulang ang mga manpower sa rural areas. Kaya ang iba, nagdodoble yung role nila sa sosyedad, no? Kaya dalawa yung mga kanilang mga trabaho. Okay? For example, in the rural areas, you're a farmer. You're a farmer at the same time you are the vendor of your harvest. Okay? So, or at the same time, you are the one who milled your harvest if you are harvesting rice. So, mas less division of labor sa rural areas kaysa sa urbanized areas. Okay? So, this problem in the urbanized area, especially because globalization would like to make more rural areas or traditional communities become modern ones or urbanized ones. So they make urbanized areas become more highly industrialized and the rural areas become urbanized, okay, or more civilized. So this problem in the overpopulation, no, na kinakaharap natin ngayon was actually predicted by Thomas Robert Malthus. So he was the one who first to publicly predict the limits of human population and how human population and well-being are well connected. So he was an English economist and a clergyman, meaning he's working in the church or in a religious sector. And he was warning the people during his time, during the time of his life. It was from 1766 to 1834. So it was between those periods that he was warning the people through his essay. Sorry, na-shift ko na siya into Thanos because they have the same perception and how to correct such imbalance or such issue in the society. So he already warned the people through his essay, an essay on the principle of population. So in this essay, he warned the people that population would increase and this increase would lead to social chaos. It will lead to social imbalances, social problems. And in this essay, he predicted that the population growth will inevitably exhaust the world food supply in the middle of the 19th century. At hindi po siya nagkamali because in the middle of the 19th century, there was already food shortage. Okay, nagkaroon na po ng food shortage because of overpopulation. Not necessarily that merely overpopulation, kasi isa rin sa mga factors kung bakit nagkaroon ng food shortage is because environmental factors, no? Hindi nakakapagtanim, hindi nakakapag-harvest ng tama, or hindi na-increase na yung number of production, or nagkakaroon ng shortage of food supply because some other groups no in the society are hoarding, no? Pwede din yan, hoarding ang rason kung bakit na-exhaust ang world supply. Okay, so what is the prediction of Malthus, no? Or what is the basis of Malthus in his conclusion or prediction about the population growth or the exponential growth of the of the people in the society? So we have this Malthusian theory. So again, Malthusian theory is also called the exponential growth theory. Again, Malthusian theory is also called exponential growth theory. So in this theory, Malthus calculated that population growth would increase in what mathematicians called as geometric progression. So meron tayong geometric progression at meron din po tayong arithmetic. So yung pag-increase daw ng population is in geometric progression. It is illustrated by the series of numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 16, 32, and so on. It means it is exponential. Okay? It doubles up, no? It doubles up or it multiplies into exponential growth across time. And at such rate, Malthus concluded that world population would soon soar out of control. So what was his basis on geometric progression? Because when people populates, no, syempre tayo, for example, tayo, when we populate, we need to have a partner. So, for example, we started with 2, no? You started with 2, so you have male and females. So, when they get united and when they conceive, no, when they conceive a child or their number of children, of course, it will populate into 4. For example, they have 2 children, and these 2 children will, of course, find another mate or find another partner that would let them produce another set of children, which are the grandchildren. So we can control how many children, and how many grandchildren, and how many grandchildren, and grandchildren would be produced in the future. So that is why he predicted it to be in geometric progression. Even though mamamatay naman talaga tayo, no? Tatanda yung first na 2, no, tatanda rin yung second na 2, which is yung 4, and then 8, tatanda sila. Pero mas mabilis kasing mag-populate ang mga tao kaysa sa mamatay, okay? Kaysa sa mas mabilis ma-increase yung fertility rate kaysa sa mortality rate. Okay? But this is not true to all societies. Kasi mayroon naman tayong mga societies na mataas yung ailing population nila. Ibig sabihin, sobrang konti or sobrang baba ng fertility rate at sobrang taas ng aging and more likely mortality rate. So if fertility or population growth is in geometric progression, food production, on the other hand, is an opposite. Not really an opposite, but it's lower. Food production would increase, but Malthus explained only in arithmetic progression, as in a series of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Because even with the new agricultural technology, the farmland is limited, and the workers in the farm are also fewer. Okay, let's proceed with the discussion, no, after we end this conference. Kasi 1 minute na lang tayo.